Hello, it's Emma Jo here from Lavinia Stamps, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make a rather lovely dingle-dangly Easter ornament with a rabbit. There's a bit of fab foils. I've got woodland hares, actually it's not really a rabbit, woodland hare, and fab foils and lots of wonderful woodland ferns, the little mushrooms from the lamp set. What else have I got in there? Mini leaf creeper, and the flower collection. I'm using some of the bits from that as well. Once I've shrunk it, I've used one of our stencils, cobbles, with some 3D adhesive paste, which is fab on shrink plastic, and it just looks wonderful. I think it looks great anyway. So using the same fab foil I used on the front for the back. Fabulous. And it just catches the light as it swings. You could put it on like an Easter tree or something. Be great. So my lovelies, enough chat from me. Let me show you how I've done this. So we're going to start off preparing the shape. But first I'm going to talk to you about Sizzix Shrink Plastic, because we're going to be using that. And I've cut it into a smaller size, just the right size to go around an Elements ink pad. No particular colour. And then on the top of that, any Posca pen, just go around the end and draw a little circle in the middle. That'll give you a guide for where you're going to punch a hole later. And then cut around the outside. Super. Colouring the egg. So, super speedy, pan pastel, titanium white. Using your fingers, put some onto that egg and rub it in. Then using a black Posca pen, smudge onto that top smaller circle. We're going to stamp the design now, and I have got a Woodland Hare stamp and some cobalt, archival ink. And I'm just inking it up and popping it in the centre of my egg shape, my oval shape. Okay, and now I've gone with the archival ink Forget-Me-Not, and I'm using the stamp Woodland Fern. And this is the smaller one. And I'm just using it to create a woodland base, if you like, a forest floor. So I'm just going around the outside of the oval. Little switcheroo, and I've gone for the larger size of the Woodland Fern now. Still in the same archival Forget-Me-Not blue, and just building up that floor for our Woodland Hare to sit on, or rather hide in. Now the lamp set does have lamps, but it also has these rather lovely tall mushrooms. So I'm using those in the Forget-Me-Not, archival ink Forget-Me-Not, and I'm just placing them around the Woodland Fern, building up that forest floor. The next stamp I'm using is the smaller of the roses from the rose set. Again, just inking that up with archival ink Forget-Me-Not blue and dotting them about the place. Now we've moved on to mini leaf creeper, and I'm just creating a frame with it around the top of the oval shape, overlapping to give the effect of maybe some overhanging branches. And this one is from the flower collection. Just adding up to that background at the top. And here again we've got the dotty one from the flower collection, which gives a lovely, it just builds up the background. It doesn't leave you any white space, which is nice. Nothing wrong with white space, but around the edges we want a solid feeling of overlapping plants and dense undergrowth. Superb. Right, Posca colour. Now that we've done all the stamping, we're using those like an outline. So here's my Posca Pen Aqua Green, and I'm going in and colouring those toadstools, mushrooms from the lamp set, and just colouring the cap. And what I'm doing when I'm colouring in is I'm colouring in within the stamp, so that leaves the outside edge of the stamp. Does that make sense? The outside edge of the stamp then provides an outline. So I'm finding bits at the top here that I want to colour in. Like, do you remember the flower collection dotty one? Well, this is where I'm going with that yellow. I'm just adding little pockets of sunshine by using that stamp and just dotting in where it was. I'm still dotting. And if you can see any white space that you think you don't want it to remain solely white, then just add some yellow dots in there just to build up your undergrowth. Now this is the glittery pink Posca Pen, and this is the glittery green Posca Pen. Now for this one I'm using this to dot along the edges of the Woodland Fern, the Woodland, that's the badger, the Woodland Fern. Sorry about that. So just going along those leaves and those fronds with little tiny dots, leaving the stamp to do all the work, but just colouring within it with little dots. So along each line I would reckon on having about 1 or 2 or 3, depending on the length of the line, of those little dots. And then highlighting some of it with the apple green Posca. Little tiny dots. But they just add a hint of colour, which is lovely. The ferns do take a time, but you know what? You get yourself into quite a meditative place where, you know, your mind switches off and you just go through the motions of dotting your ferns, as you do. And I've gone up to the top of the oval now, and I'm looking at that flower collection and just adding in some greenery. Dots are a great way of adding colour without being too over the top. Here we go again with the glittery dark green Posca. And some white dots. Now that was white dots on top of the caps of the mushrooms that we've just done aqua green. Putting some more yellow dots around our woodland hare. Like little tiny dots of sunshine. And this is our glittery pink Posca pen. Just adding little subtle hints of colour. Shrinking time! Love this. Always makes me feel like a magician. Right, so I'm using a shrink plastic accessory, which I've got from the accessories set. It's absolutely fabulous because you can hold it down at one end and then turn it over and stamp your creation flat. So I'm using a heat tool and I have shrunk that little oval down to an egg shape. Now, you see I switched it over to the shiny side. If you find that you're not getting a completely flat shrink, turn it over and give it a quick blast of heat on the shiny side, and that'll help it go flat. Okay, so now we're going to work on the other side. I've got some 3D adhesive paste and the Cobbles stencil. I would really suggest you apply this with a palette knife, because you will get a much better coverage. Unfortunately, I didn't have a palette knife to hand, so I had to be a little inventive. But if you just make sure that you get some 3D adhesive paste going through that stencil, you'll get that lovely shape. It reminds me of chocolate Easter eggs that you used to get when you were a child. So I'm using a Ranger heat tool, not to finish this off completely and dry it off completely, because that won't happen really without you getting bubbles in it, and we don't really want those. So you can do as much as you can, but as soon as you see it bubble, move somewhere else, or alternatively, wait. Try and have some patience. Right, now this is the Wow Fab Foils Ice Blue, which I think is stunning. And look at that. Look at that. It's just picked up. You can't see, but I'm telling you, it has picked up all the pattern of the stencil on the back, and it just looks like those Easter eggs from when I was a child. Right, Zig two-way glue pen, round the outside, heat it up with your heat tool until it gets tacky like a sticker, and put that same foil, Wow Fab Foils Ice Blue, on top, and you will get a lovely shiny edge, exactly the same colour as the back, and it will look stunning as it just dangles. If you're having it as a hanging ornament, you can dangle off a branch of eggs. I think it's a lovely idea for Easter or even for Christmas, you know, any sort of hanging decoration for any time of year. You can obviously stop doing this when you're happy. But there you go, my friends. You have done it. Well done. This was an absolute delight to make. Yes, it was. Because I always get blown away by shrink plastic, that you start off with something that's quite big and quite, you know, you can see everything and you think, oh, how's it going to work shrunk down? And then you see it shrink down and suddenly it looks so delicate. Delicate and lovely, and just like you planned it like that. But of course you didn't, because it started off large. So yes, shrink plastic gives me the chance to be lovely and delicate. I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you'd like to leave any comments about this video, please pop them in the post below, and I will do my very best to get back in touch with you as soon as I possibly can. But in the meantime, you have fun and happy shrinking. Bye!